Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. President-elect Donald Trump issued an ultimatum to the Hamas terrorists. If the hostages taken in October of 2023 are not released by the time he assumes office on January 20th, there will be all hell to pay, he said. Senator Joe Manchin, the retiring West Virginia moderate who's never been afraid to shake things up, is calling on President Joe Biden to also pardon President-elect Donald Trump. We have the details of what Senator Joe Manchin is asking. The mayor of Frederick, Maryland, Michael O'Connor, he's a Democrat, has set off a firestorm by proposing a taxpayer-funded legal advocacy fund to defend immigrants, including those here illegally, from policies of the new Trump administration to take effect next month. And Jamie Komoroski, the woman who drove drunk and sadly killed Samantha Miller on her wedding night in Folly Beach, South Carolina, has been sentenced to 25 years in prison after pleading guilty to multiple charges.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Yesterday, I told you I was anxious to see how Karine Jean-Pierre would respond to her boss going back on his promise to the nation, because she has defended Joe Biden steadfastly over the years that she has served him. She has to feel kind of stupid right now, as she has repeatedly in recent months said that Joe Biden would never consider pardoning Hunter Biden, and in fact, he did so Sunday night. So we got to hear her response yesterday, and being the professional that she is, she rebounded quickly and had a perfectly, in her mind, good explanation of Joe Biden's latest reversal.
You have said repeatedly yourself since the election, the president has said for months, no pardon was coming. I wanted to ask you, could those statements now be seen as lies from the American people? Is there really a credibility issue here given now this announcement?
First of all, one of the things that the president always believes is to be truthful to the American people. That is something that he always truly believes. And if you see the end of his, I assume that you've read his statement, and you look at the end of that statement, and he actually says that in the first line in the last paragraph, and respects the thinking and how the American people will actually see this in his decision making. And I would encourage everyone to read in full the president's statement. I think he lays out his thought process. He lays out how he came to this decision. He came to this decision this weekend. So let's be very clear about that. He says it himself. It's in his voice. He said he came to this decision this weekend. And he said he wrestled with this. And because he believes in the justice system, but he also believes that the war politics infected the process and led to a miscarriage of justice.
A miscarriage of justice is her explanation. This latest decision of Joe Biden, of course, sent shockwaves throughout Washington, even among Democrats. Supporters call it a father's attempt to protect his son from politically motivated attacks. Critics see it as a betrayal of the very principles of justice and equality of the law. Joe Biden issued a full pardon of his son, Hunter Biden. We talked about it yesterday, citing what he called selective and unfair prosecution by his political opponents. This comes after Hunter was convicted of 3 gun felonies and pleaded guilty to failing to pay $1.4 million in taxes related to his foreign business dealings. Now, the White House and Joe Biden and the supporters of the president are trying to say, well, this was politically motivated, just like Donald Trump. The difference is Hunter Biden actually broke the law. He did not pay his taxes and would not have paid them had this not come up. On the other hand, they like to say that, well, you know, they're pointing the finger at Donald Trump. Donald Trump and his family, they haven't done anything other than run a business. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre defended the pardon aboard Air Force One. They were traveling, saying that Hunter was singled out because of his last name. This was war politics at play. Ms. Jean-Pierre used the term war politics multiple times. I guess overnight, she kind of sat around thinking of, okay, how do I spin this? And what's my talking points here? What's the key word? And war politics was the phrase she settled on. She argued that the political adversaries had targeted little Hunter simply because he's the president's son. Now, you got to admit, the timing and justification for the pardon are questionable. One of the strongest rebukes came from one of Joe Biden's own, from Colorado Governor Jared Polis, a Democrat. He tweeted, "While as a father, I certainly understand President Biden's natural desire to help his son, I'm disappointed that he put his family ahead of the country. This is a bad precedent that could be abused by later presidents and will sadly tarnish his reputation." What reputation is that there, Governor? His reputation as a liar? He just confirmed what we all have suspected and believed for years now. Representative Greg Stanton of Arizona contradicted Biden's claim that Hunter was a victim of selective prosecution, saying this wasn't a politically motivated prosecution. Hunter committed felonies and was convicted by a jury of his peers. Even leading Democrat strategist Mark Penn weighed in, calling the pardon disgraceful. This was not a pardon of just Hunter Biden, but of Joe Biden himself. Now, over on the GOP side, outrage, as you would imagine. Critics slammed Joe Biden for what they see as a blatant double standard, especially as Hunter's pardon comes while thousands of clemency petitions for nonviolent offenders, particularly those convicted of marijuana-related crimes, those J6ers, remain untouched. Weldon Angelos, founder of Mission Green, expressed his disappointment, saying, with only 2 months left in office, the president has yet to fulfill his promise to free people still incarcerated for marijuana offenses. Shockingly, Biden has now pardoned more turkeys than people who are locked up for marijuana offenses. This group, Mission Green, doesn't believe you should have to go to prison because you broke the law in states that still outlaw the use of marijuana. Now, on the other side, those who somehow believe they can defend Joe Biden argue that the pardon was necessary to protect Hunter from what they see as politically driven persecution. Karine Jean-Pierre emphasized that Biden still believes in the Department of Justice, but felt compelled to act due to the politically infected nature of the case. So, yes, he believes in justice for all. It's just he likes to hand out the justice that he thinks is necessary when it comes to his family. And evidently, the First Lady was probably the deciding factor here. There were reports yesterday that Joe Biden seemed to really be conflicted as to whether or not he should issue a pardon to his son. Maybe, just maybe, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe Joe was feeling a little hesitant about it, but Dr. Jill Biden, according to reports, probably pushed him over the ledge. The First Lady offered her unqualified support, telling reporters at a White House Christmas event but prior to them leaving, "Of course I support the pardon of my son," she said, and smiled real big. Reports are that she pushed Joe Biden to just do it, to help their son. For Biden's allies, the pardon is about standing up to what they perceive as partisan attacks, weaponizing the Justice Department against the president's family. Now, they keep forgetting that this is Joe Biden's Justice Department. These are people appointed by Joe Biden. How can they make the argument? Now, it's one thing for the Trump family to say that the Biden Justice Department is weaponized against them, but how is it weaponized against themselves? The criticisms don't stop with Hunter's pardon, though. Journalists and advocacy groups are asking pointed questions about the perceived double standard in Biden's use of clemency. One reporter aboard Air Force One asked Jean Pierre, the United States has more people in prison than any country on earth. Can we expect that other people whose clemency petitions are sitting at the White House will see the same care and attention that the president gave his own son? I think they meant that as a serious question and not a rhetorical question. I think they know the answer, though. Jean Pierre deflected, stating, you can expect more announcements to come. Yesterday, a lot of the politicos are talking about the fallout. And it comes at a time when Joe Biden's approval ratings are at an all-time low. But at this point, I don't think he cares. He's an 82-year-old man who can barely walk around, and I get it. He wants to protect his son. I don't think he cares about his legacy anymore. Do you? Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. This year, I really thought I was going to have to boycott the holidays. I was going to lock myself away and not come out until 2025. But after finding PhD weight loss, you can bet I'll be at every holiday party I'm invited to. That's because PhD weight loss helped me take control with great confidence, support, and my new healthy body. The best part? PhD weight loss did it all without harmful drugs that keep you dependent on them to maintain your weight loss. It's a natural, medication-free approach to weight loss crafted to naturally diminish food-related thoughts, hunger, and cravings, making your weight loss journey more sustainable and enjoyable. Take it from me, I lost 33 pounds. The PhD weight loss program teaches you not just what to eat and when, but also how to think differently about food and finally let go of those cravings and get rid of the hunger naturally. Don't lock yourself away this holiday season. Call PhD Weight Loss today at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Boy, you guys had a lot to say about Joe Biden's pardoning of his son. A lot of text messages, a lot of emails, a lot of messages. You know, I love your text messages. I love your emails, joey@joeyhudson.com. I love to get your messages on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. You can call, leave a quick message on the MyPillow message line. And speaking of MyPillow, when you go to MyPillow.com, always use promo code Joey to get the very best deal. Mike Lindell has his Christmas extravaganza going on right now. You can get the season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98 when you use promo code Joey. They're not going to last long, so you might want to go ahead and call 800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com and get your order. The My Slippers, for example, they're regularly $119.98, and they haven't been on sale all year. Right now for Christmas, Mike Lindell has them for only $59.98 when you use promo code Joey. Their 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities. So you want to order these two for only $29.98 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059. Go ahead and get that Christmas shopping done. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list, from bathrobes to duvets to quilts, down comforters, and so much more. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Jennifer writes on the text line, I heard the news about President Biden pardoning his son Hunter. I'm just curious. Do you think Biden and Trump discussed that pardon in any way when Trump had his 2-hour visit with Biden at the White House? That's a good question, Jennifer. You know, I kind of speculated at the time that it might have come up, except I was thinking that maybe Joe Biden brought it up with the idea of asking Trump about doing it for him. Texter Albert says, in reference to the restructuring of all the federal law enforcement departments, those employees are found to have been involved in unlawful actions should be fired and not receive any ongoing compensation or pension benefits. I don't want to see these people sitting on the beach sipping a cold drink with my taxpayer dollars paying for it. You're right on that, Albert. Mr. Thomas in Morganton writes, I bet the Biden Thanksgiving table talk went something like this. Dad, if you don't pardon me and I go to jail, I'll tell them and you'll go to jail too. You don't think he would blackmail his own father, do you there, Mr. Thomas in Morganton? Susan from Hartwell, boy, you're naive. I knew all along that Biden was going to pardon his ne'er-do-well son, given his penchant for lying. Well, Susan, I guess you I guess you called me out on that one. Maybe I was a little naive. I just didn't think that even Joe Biden could so blatantly lie to the American people. He'd have been better off to just not say anything about it, rather than declaring every opportunity that, oh, I'll never pardon my son. He should have just never said anything about it and then done it. Paul in Greenville, a pardon for Hunter? Sure, if Biden grants a Christmas pardon to all the J6 prisoners. I don't think that's going to happen. Jordan writes, I really want to see how KJP handles the Hunter pardon with Peter Doocy. I kind of bet it's going to have something to do with, as a father, wouldn't you pardon your child? We all knew it was coming. It just shows you can dodge justice when your dad is a traitor to the country. It will be interesting when they get back to Washington and in the White House press room, and Peter has a chance to pin her down on this. Texter, Kevin in Travers Rest says, hey, Joey, simply put, Kamala was supposed to win the election, then she would have pardoned Hunter. You know, I think that's probably what that's my thoughts too there, Kevin. I think Joe Biden thought that Kamala was going to win, and that was probably part of the deal. I'll step aside, you run, you win, you pardon my son. And that's why he kept saying, I won't pardon him, because he didn't think he was going to have to. He thought Kamala was going to do it for him. Texter, Joey, I think he made a deal with Harris that when she won the election, she would pardon them, and now he has to do it himself. Yep, there you go. Same. My thoughts as I agree with you. Texter, do you think Hunter Biden can make it to the end of Joe's term without committing another crime and needing another pardon? I don't. Well, good point there. He's got to be good until January the 20th. Well, actually, he's got to be good from now on out for the rest of his life. This is his one get-out-of-jail-free card. He's not going to get another one. Although it is interesting, and Senator Tom Cotton confirmed yesterday, and I wasn't aware of this, but the fact that Hunter has been pardoned, he now cannot plead the fifth if brought before Congress or in an investigation. He is called to testify about these offenses. He can't plead the fifth because he can't incriminate himself. I never had thought about that. Senator Tom Cotton pointed that out yesterday, that maybe Joe Biden did us a favor. Now, whether or not they'll ever get little Hunter back in before Congress, who knows? But that's where we have to push our Republican majority in the House. Texter, hey, Joey, can the president pardon someone for anticipated charges? Seems the president's authority to pardon should not be applied to future cases. No, it's not applied to future cases. It did wipe the past completely clean, though. Whether it's offenses that we know of or offenses that we don't know of, if they appeared in that or if they happened in that particular time. Texter, Joey, the pardon came because Hunter has video of Joe named in a compromising position. Seen on X, there is no one else it could be. Probably from his laptop, Joe was blackmailed by his son. Yep, I agree with you. Joe did not want Hunter in jail talking. Texter, hey, Joey, this is Cheryl. If anyone believed that he wouldn't pardon his son, they're just silly. I always knew he would pardon him on the way out the door. If I had the power to save my child from prison, I would. Now, I say that knowing that I had not groomed my child to love of life and debauchery, deceit, and crime. Thank you, Cheryl. Texter, he should have pardoned Hunter at the same time as the turkeys. It would have been more fitting. He has pardoned a number of turkeys in these past few weeks, hasn't he? Texter, Joy, there can be no healing of the country until some of those people go to jail. Also, the fix was in as soon as Hunter pled guilty. I think you're probably right there too. I guess we knew it was coming. We just didn't want to admit it. Texter, Joey, Trump worked for free and he got barbecued Hunter is not clean and left cocaine in the White House. How does old Joe say he's clean? He's far from it. Let's let the old man believe what he wants to believe. Wow. Your comments are welcome as well. You can email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. As we're into December now, Christmas just a few weeks away, then New Year's, and then on to January 20th, the reality of Donald Trump back in the White House is starting to come in. In a statement on Truth Social yesterday, Trump did not mince words. And this is what I love about the man. He made it clear to Hamas that if the hostages taken by them during their attack on Israel on October 7th of 2023, if they're not released by the time he assumes office on January 20th, there's going to be hell to pay, he said. This isn't just rhetoric. Trump's comments signal a warning to Hamas and other actors in that region that there's a new sheriff in town, right? A quick review here. October 7th, 2023, Hamas launched a devastating attack on Israel. They killed at least 1,200 people. They kidnapped another 250 or so. Among the hostages are at least 7 Americans. The attack has plunged the region into one of its deepest crises in decades, and there doesn't appear to be a permanent ceasefire in sight. Gaza is decimated, as they should be, with Israel just standing up and defending itself. So Trump's statement comes amid frustration over the lack of progress in securing the hostages' release. Here's what he wrote. Everybody is talking about the hostages who are now being held so violently, inhumanely, and against the will of the entire world, but it's all talk and no action. He added, if the hostages are not released prior to January 20th, there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East and for those in charge who perpetuated these atrocities against humanity. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, isn't it? And how do you feel about that? It's an ultimatum. And if Hamas does not release the hostages now, Donald Trump has to take action, or we all appear weak. It's already a volatile situation over there, and boy, it could get worse. Hamas, of course, a designated terrorist organization. They receive backing from Iran, including funding and weapons. Trump's warning is a direct challenge not only to Hamas, but to Tehran, signaling that his administration will take decisive and potentially unprecedented action if the hostages are not freed. His language, particularly the promise that those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in U.S. history, suggests the possibility of a military response, which means we're going to be more involved in that conflict than we are now, than just supplying support to Israel. So what does this mean? Maybe targeted strikes, special operations, broader campaigns aimed at weakening Hamas's infrastructure? It certainly means more than just continuing to supply money and weapons to Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has pledged to take every possible action to secure the hostages' release. But Trump's ultimatum reinforces the U.S.-Israeli alliance, but it also raises questions about how the two nations might coordinate their efforts and whether Trump's stance will influence Israel's military strategies in Gaza itself. The stakes are high, particularly for the hostages like Eden Alexander. He's a dual Israeli-American citizen who's been held captive now for 420 days. A recent video showed Alexander delivering a forced message pleading for his release. Netanyahu has spoken with Mr. Alexander's family and reaffirmed Israel's commitment to bringing the hostages home. It's my fear that those animals will just kill them all just to make a statement, because in the end, they don't care about life. They don't care about Donald Trump. And all efforts for a ceasefire has failed because it's real simple. Until Hamas takes responsibility for what they've done and they recognize that they invaded Israel, one of our allies, there's not a permanent solution here yet. And Trump's ultimatum is just that. A promise that here's what's going to happen if you don't get in line. His statement underscores a reality there that the hostage crisis isn't just a humanitarian tragedy. It's a flashpoint in this geopolitical struggle. His words are a rallying cry for decisive action and a reminder of the challenges we all face and what he's willing to do to accomplish of getting these hostages released. Moving on to another topic. Here's another thank you, Joe Biden. More troubling news for the retail sector as Walgreens, one of the nation's largest pharmacy chains, announced yesterday that it's going to close around 1,200 stores over the next few years. Walgreens operates about 8,500 locations nationwide. It's struggling with significant losses, including a staggering $3 billion in the final quarter of this year. CEO Tim Wentworth said earlier this year that changes are imminent for underperforming locations, which account for nearly 25% of the Walgreens store locations. By the end of the fiscal year, Walgreens will have already closed about 500 stores this year, with hundreds more to follow in the next 2 years as part of what Wentworth described as a critical rebasing strategy. He emphasized that while the turnaround will take time, the company is confident that it ultimately will yield financial and consumer benefits. This news adds Walgreens to the growing list of major retailers scaling back: GameStop, Sears, their competitor CVS, Walmart. Others have recently closed locations amid the challenges of a shifting retail landscape. There's no word yet on which Walgreens stores will be closing, but as the retail industry continues to face strong headwinds, communities, consumers can expect changes, and you can expect not to see a Walgreens on every corner. You know, I've already noticed that Walgreens has scaled back. I mean, my favorite Walgreens, their pharmacy hours have really scaled back. In fact, I don't even know when they're open at times. It's kind of random. They're not even open at all on Sunday anymore. You cannot pick up a prescription at my Walgreens on Sunday. But that's the signs of the time. And again, we have Joe Biden to a large degree to thank for this. His economy has created a tough situation for these retailers. Sad news, Jamie Komoroski, the woman who drove drunk and killed bride Samantha Miller on her wedding night, has been sentenced to 25 years in prison after pleading guilty to multiple charges. And I say it's sad news because this is just another chapter in this sad story. It started on April 28th, 2023, when newlyweds Samantha Miller and Eric Hutchinson were leaving their wedding reception in Folly Beach, South Carolina. Miss Komoroski was driving 65 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone. She crashed her rental car into the golf cart carrying this newlywed. Miller, just 34 years old, died from her injuries that night, while Hutchinson suffered several injuries, including 2 broken legs and brain trauma. It was a horrific end to what should have been the happiest day of their life. Komoroski, 27 years old, pleaded guilty to felony DUI, DUI causing great bodily injury or death, and reckless homicide. She admitted full responsibility, telling the court, quote, "I'm truly deeply sorry. I take full responsibility for my actions." The judge sentenced this young lady to 25 years in prison, a decision Samantha Miller's grieving husband, Eric Hutchinson, called fitting but bittersweet. Hutchinson and Miller's family addressed the court, talking about the devastation and the void left by this young woman's actions. Mr. Hutchinson tearfully recalled his last moments with his bride, saying, "She told me she didn't want the night to end, and I kissed her on the forehead. The next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital." Miller's mother relived the last time she hugged her daughter during a dance at the wedding reception. It's just a sad time. A sad, sad time. Ms. Komorowski's reckless actions led to a $1.3 million partial settlement in a wrongful death lawsuit filed by Hutchinson against her. The bars that served her alcohol that day and the rental car company she was using has helped pay for part of that. And this is part of the problem with our liability law in South Carolina, because these businesses have to take responsibility of this young woman's reckless actions. The lawsuit alleged that Komoroski engaged in a booze-filled day of bar hopping and that the establishments had a duty to act responsibly. Several businesses named in the lawsuit have already settled with $863,000 going to the victims' families after fees. Now, again, it raises the question of this whole liability question about who should be responsible. Should these businesses, should the rental car company be responsible that this lady was driving drunk? And should these restaurants and bars be responsible for this lady who was not consuming alcohol responsibly? Evidently, there were several involved. Again, it's just sad for all parties involved. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. With immigration being one of the top issues on the voters' minds on November the 5th, there's a lot of activity right now going on as we head towards January the 20th and Donald Trump takes office. And we know in those first 100 days, he's going to take a lot of action to curb the flow of illegal immigration into our southern border and at our northern border as well. There are reports this week that the latest migrant caravan making its way through southern Mexico towards the U.S. border left on Sunday, headed this way. There's made up of at least 1,500 asylum seekers racing north with a sense of urgency, hoping to cross into the U.S. before Donald Trump takes office on January the 20th. And again, with Trump's promising a crackdown on immigration and new policies that could drastically change the asylum process, these illegals are walking into a complex and uncertain future, and I think they realize that. They're trying to get here and be in the country before Donald Trump closes the border. And that's the message that they need to receive, rather than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's message of open arms, come on in, everybody's welcome. The mayor of Frederick, Maryland, Michael O'Connor, he's a Democrat, is in the headlines as well, though. And this is just another example of what we're going to see in the coming years. He set off a firestorm by proposing a taxpayer-funded legal advocacy fund to defend illegals against the new policies of the Trump administration. Instead of prioritizing law-abiding citizens, Mayor O'Connor wants Frederick taxpayers to foot the bill to help immigrants fight federal immigration laws. This is very similar to what we are seeing in Denver, Colorado as well, and other sanctuary cities and other areas that believe it's their duty to support these illegals in our country and to oppose the Trump administration before it even gets started. Frederick, Maryland is Maryland's second largest city, has a population of 86,000. It's nestled halfway between Washington, D.C. and Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The mayor, trying to justify his proposal, called it a patriotic move and invoked his own family's immigrant history. He also referenced Vice President Kamala Harris's remarks about being organized, energized, and engaged. The mayor claims this isn't about politics, but protecting the values of Frederick, he said. He says it's about ensuring that immigrants feel safe, respected, and protected. But at what cost? This plan doesn't just sidestep federal law. He's forgotten that. It challenges it. And who's left holding the bag? The hardworking taxpayers of Frederick, Maryland. And I hope that they're upset about this. I hope that they don't sit back and allow their mayor to do this. Well, it's pretty clear that one citizen is not going to sit back, and that's Sheriff Chuck Jenkins. He's a straight shooter, a defender of law and order, and he isn't mincing words. He told Fox News that this plan is not only inappropriate, but unfair to taxpayers. Jenkins hit the nail on the head when he pointed out that there are already private and nonprofit organizations that provide legal support for immigrants. And he asked the question, why should city resources be diverted from public safety and infrastructure to fund a political statement? Here's the sheriff.
First of all, two separate issues here. Number one is the funding. I thought it was totally inappropriate. I don't think he has the right to make that decision unilaterally. I think he's going to anger the taxpayers. And aside from that, I think it's unfair to the taxpayer. And there's already enough advocacy groups out there to provide legal counsel for people in removal proceedings. You have Casa de Maryland, you have Rise of Western Maryland that is funded state and federally. So I don't think it's necessary for the locals to get involved in that. Basically what the mayor said in his statement, he is going to try to protect the non-citizen residents of Frederick City by not working with ICE, not cooperating with ICE, who is going to come in and they're going to make arrests. He doesn't have the right to do that. It's not his business to do that. ICE has the authority, and they will come into this jurisdiction, come into the city, and pick up the targets they deem necessary to pick up. To me, he's invited more problems potentially by saying, we're going to protect you in Frederick City. We're not going to cooperate. So that could invite, other criminal elements, including criminal gangs, that may think they're safe here by the mayor's comments. We have no jurisdiction in Frederick County to go out and do the job of ICE and to make arrests under the federal authority. We don't have that jurisdiction. We don't have that authority. Our sole source of cooperation here in Frederick County is a 287G program, which is a jail-based program. However, what I see as something we can do as an agency here at the sheriff's office is cooperate with ICE if, in fact, they need and ask for cooperation in the sense of logistical support, maybe transportation, maybe a place to work out of, to keep their agents on the street to pick up the criminals. And I'll say this to Mr. Homan, who's going to be the border czar, and I'll say this to Governor Kristi Noem, who's going to be the Homeland Security Secretary. Take a look at the 287G task force model that used to exist back in the day, going back 10 years. Let's reinstate that. Let's stand it up. And let's encourage every local law enforcement agency to step up and get involved in this effort. The quicker we address the problem, the quicker we clean up the cities, get the criminals off the street, the criminal gangs, people in this country who are convicted of violent crimes in other countries. There's probably 2.5 million people that are going to be the initial targets, all criminals.
Bingo. That last statement there, they're all criminals. That's the key. That's the key to what Donald Trump intends to do. Some people are getting all upset about the mass deportation, and they're forgetting that his initial targets are people who have broken the law, who have, in some cases, robbed people, who have murdered people, in addition to being here illegally. Sheriff Jenkins predicts that the move could invite increased criminal activity under the false perception that Frederick is a sanctuary city. He warns that it will embolden criminal elements who think that they have a shield against immigration and customs enforcement. And he's not wrong, is he? I mean, if word gets out that, hey, Frederick, Maryland, they'll pay your legal expenses for you, they'll help you, it's going to be like a magnet. And that's just what some of these sanctuary cities aren't understanding. We've seen what happens in communities that put ideology ahead of public safety. Just look at the tragic case of Kayla Hamilton in nearby Hartford County, an innocent autistic young woman brutally murdered by an MS-13 gang member who had been released to a sponsor in Frederick, Maryland. This is what happens when policies prioritize political correctness over protecting American citizens. Congressman Mark Green, chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, didn't hold back either. He slammed O'Connor's plan, calling it appalling and reminding local officials that no one is above federal immigration law. And here's the kicker. The Trump administration isn't going to stand by and let this kind of lawlessness slide. Tom Homan, the new border czar, has made it clear that ICE doesn't need Frederick's permission to enforce federal laws, and I suspect that Tom Homan is going to enforce that. I suspect he doesn't care what Mayor O'Connor in Frederick, Maryland cares or thinks about federal law. Tom Homan is going to send his ICE agents in there, and they're going to do their job. And let's not forget, it's not about just Frederick, Maryland. You have other counties all around the country who are making somewhat similar moves, trying to go ahead and posture to challenge the Trump administration. It's not going to go over too good for them. It's not going to be a happy ending, I'm afraid. So that brings us back to a question that I've asked multiple times these past few weeks, particularly after Tom Homan was named as the border czar. What role does local government play in this? Because they seem to think that if they don't want ICE and the federal government in there, that they have that opportunity, that they have that option to not cooperate with the federal government. We're going to see how this turns out. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.